The tension in the War Council chamber was palpable as Goro's deep, gravelly voice echoed, urging the assembled commanders to acknowledge the stark reality of their situation. The vast room, adorned with holographic displays of battle maps and the images of various species united against a common enemy, was a testament to the gravity of their circumstances. Each commander bore the weight of their respective species' hopes and fears, yet doubt crept in as they contemplated the escalating conflict with the humans. Goro continued to speak, emphasizing their underestimation of the human spirit. "You think they're going to back down after what we've done? They don't quit. They don't break. We've crippled their supply lines, devastated their resources, and yet here they are, clawing their way back with a ferocity we've never seen before." The murmurs of disbelief and concern filled the room. The Valani commander, ROK, expressed his skepticism, waving a dismissive hand. "No species can sustain such a relentless onslaught. They must have limits. We've pushed them to their breaking point. We just need to find a way to exploit it." "But that's where you're wrong," Goro interjected, a steely glint in his eye. "You've seen how they react when cornered. They don't cower, they fight back harder. I was there at the Siege of Varth, and I witnessed firsthand how they turn desperation into strength. They fight like it's second nature." The gravity of Goro's words hung in the air, silencing the chamber. The thought of facing a foe that thrived in adversity was both unsettling and sobering. Commander Ralvo leaned forward, his expression grim. "If we don't break their morale, we're destined to lose. That's the cornerstone of warfare. Every species has a point where they falter." Goro shook his head, frustration evident. "You think we can break them the way we would any other race? They're not built the same way we are. They don't fight for honor or glory, they fight to survive. They don't care about losing a battle, they care about winning the war." As the commanders exchanged glances, doubt began to permeate the room. The reality of facing an opponent that didn't conform to the rules of war as they understood them was both terrifying and demoralizing. ROK finally broke the silence, pacing anxiously. "So what do you propose? Just sit back and watch as they devour our forces one by one?" "No," Goro replied, his voice steady. "We need to rethink our strategy. If they won't stop, we have to make them believe that pursuing us isn't worth their time." This notion drew raised eyebrows and murmurs of disbelief. "And how do you intend to convince a species that doesn't understand surrender to leave us alone?" ROK asked, skepticism dripping from his tone. Goro leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "If we can make them see that we're too costly to destroy, that's how we can survive. We need to unite all our forces, not just to resist, but to show them that any further attempts to conquer us will lead to losses far greater than they anticipate." The War Council chamber fell into another heavy silence as the implications of Goro's words sank in. There was an undeniable truth in his conviction. Humanity's relentless nature could not be underestimated. Desperation can be a powerful motivator, Ralvo finally conceded, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. But we need to remember that no species, no matter how resilient, can outlast a coalition of unified forces. Perhaps we could divide their attention and resources. Goro's eyes narrowed as he considered this new angle. How would we divide them? They'd shown remarkable coordination in their attacks. If we split our forces, we risked being overwhelmed. We could use misinformation, ROK suggested, his voice gaining momentum. Create illusions of strength where we're weak, make them think they're winning battles they haven't even fought yet. But at what cost? Goro asked, leaning forward. What if they adapt to our tactics? We need something more concrete than deception. As discussions raged on, Goro's mind raced with memories of past encounters with humanity. They were not just a collection of soldiers but a resilient and adaptable race, capable of thriving in the face of adversity. He remembered the stories of human soldiers, willing to fight until the last breath, refusing to yield even when the odds were stacked against them. It was a trait that made them both formidable and terrifying. What if we focus on creating chaos among their ranks? Ralvo proposed, a spark of inspiration igniting in his eyes. If they thrive on order, then we turn their strengths against them. Goro hesitated, weighing the potential consequences. That's a risky gambit. Humans are unpredictable. They might thrive in chaos, but also find ways to organize it to their advantage. We need to push them into a corner, ROK insisted. If we can't break their morale, we force them into situations where they have to fight against overwhelming odds. Eventually, they'll stumble. As the conversation continued, the commanders debated the various strategies they could implement. Ideas flowed, shifting from the practical to the fantastical, as they considered the most effective way to combat humanity's tenacity. Goro remained skeptical but found himself intrigued by the possibilities that began to take shape. In the ensuing hours, strategies emerged. They decided to focus on disrupting human supply lines while simultaneously launching deceptive assaults on their weaker sectors. The plan was to mislead their enemy into thinking they were gaining ground while systematically dismantling the logistical backbone that supported the relentless human advance. As Goro participated in the discussions, he couldn't shake the sense of foreboding that lingered in the air. The more they spoke of manipulation and chaos, the more he realized they were straying dangerously close to underestimating their opponents. He recalled the stories of human resilience, their ability to adapt, and how they thrived in chaotic environments. It was a gamble that could backfire in unexpected ways. The days that followed were filled with preparations for war. Each commander returned to their respective factions, rallying troops and resources for the coming onslaught. They engaged in strategic meetings, rehearsed scenarios, and prepared for the unpredictable nature of the humans they faced. Goro, too, returned to his own forces, sharing insights from the council and emphasizing the need for unity. He addressed his soldiers, the air thick with anticipation and anxiety. You all know the stakes. We're not just fighting for our homes, we're fighting for our very existence. The humans won't stop until they've crushed every last one of us. They've shown us their tenacity, and we must match it with our own. Prepare yourselves for the unexpected. His soldiers nodded, the fire of determination igniting within them. Yet, Goro couldn't shake the feeling that they were racing against time. Humanity was not a foe to be taken lightly, and every passing moment brought them closer to a confrontation that could seal their fate. As the days turned into weeks, skirmishes erupted across the galaxy. They launched their operations, utilizing deception to lure human forces into traps. The humans, however, proved to be anything but predictable. In one instance, a small fleet of human ships, previously thought to be unarmed, retaliated with surprising ferocity. Their ability to improvise in the heat of battle left Goro's forces reeling, barely able to regroup in time to counter the unexpected onslaught. Despite their efforts, the humans adapted quickly, leveraging their own experiences and lessons learned. Each encounter brought new challenges, and Goro felt the weight of his initial doubts intensify. The humans weren't just fighting back, they were evolving. In one particularly fierce battle, Goro found himself face to face with a human commander. The battlefield was chaotic, filled with the remnants of ships and debris floating in the dark expanse of space. Goro's fleet had taken significant losses, and as he observed the human commander rallying their troops, he felt a mixture of respect and anger. The human commander, a wiry figure adorned with makeshift armor, shouted orders with an intensity that resonated with the soldiers around them. Goro watched as the humans, driven by a fierce sense of camaraderie, launched a counteroffensive that caught his forces off guard. Their resolve was palpable, and he couldn't help but admire the way they fought for each other, how they drew strength from their unity in the face of overwhelming odds. In that moment, Goro realized that they had miscalculated the essence of humanity. It wasn't just their individual resilience that made them formidable, it was their unyielding bond and the determination to fight for one another. As the battle raged on, Goro felt the tide turning against him, the chaos swallowing his forces whole. The aftermath of that battle was devastating. Goro returned to the War Council, weary and haunted by the realization that their strategies were flawed. The humans had not only endured but thrived. As he stepped into the chamber, he was met with anxious glances and murmurs of discontent. "It's worse than we thought," Goro admitted, his voice steady but laced with frustration. They're adapting to every tactic we employ. We've underestimated them, and it's costing us dearly." The commanders exchanged worried looks, grappling with the reality that their plans were unraveling. ROK leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. "We need to reevaluate our approach. It's clear that we're not going to break them through conventional means. Perhaps we should consider alternative strategies." As discussions continued, a glimmer of hope emerged. They began to explore new avenues, seeking ways to exploit human weaknesses without falling into the trap of underestimating their resilience. Ralvo suggested leveraging their technological advantages, developing advanced weaponry designed to counter human tactics. "Technology can give us the edge we need," Ralvo insisted. "We can create systems that track human movements and adapt in real time. We must stay one step ahead." Goro listened intently, knowing that technology alone wouldn't be enough. He pondered the essence of warfare, strategy, adaptability, and the unyielding spirit of soldiers willing to fight for each other. It was a lesson he learned the hard way, one that shaped the way he viewed the ongoing conflict. As they delved deeper into their discussions, a plan began to take shape. They would utilize advanced reconnaissance drones to gather intelligence on human movements, allowing them to anticipate their tactics. Additionally, they would deploy specialized units trained to counteract the chaos that humans thrived in. However, as preparations progressed, Goro couldn't shake the feeling that they were merely delaying the inevitable. Despite their technological advancements, humanity's spirit remained unbroken. The final confrontation approached, a climactic battle that would determine the fate of their coalition. Goro's heart raced with uncertainty as he stood on the command deck, staring at the vast expanse of space filled with the silhouettes of their fleets. The battlefield was set, and they were ready to engage. As the fleets clashed, the chaos erupted anew. Explosions lit up the darkness, and ships danced in a deadly ballet of fire and metal. Goro fought valiantly alongside his comrades, each moment stretching into eternity as they engaged the relentless human forces. Yet, amid the chaos, he noticed something he hadn't seen before. The humans were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting for something more profound. In the midst of battle, he saw them helping one another, sharing resources, and covering each other's flanks. Their bond transcended mere survival. It was a testament to their shared humanity. In a fierce moment of combat, Goro found himself face to face with the same human commander from the earlier battle. Their ships clashed in a shower of sparks, and as they exchanged fire, Goro realized he was not just fighting against an enemy, but against the very essence of what made humanity strong. The human commander, locked in a fierce duel, shouted something across the comms. "We're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for everyone who believes in a future." Goro hesitated for a moment, grappling with the weight of those words. The determination in the human's voice resonated within him, stirring something he had never felt before: respect for an adversary who fought not just for survival but for a collective dream of hope and unity. As the battle raged on, the tide began to shift. The humans, galvanized by their shared purpose, pressed forward with renewed vigor. Goro's forces, though brave, began to falter under the weight of that indomitable spirit. In a final desperate move, Goro commanded his fleet to regroup, focusing on one last offensive against the human stronghold. As they pressed forward, Goro could feel the desperation creeping in. He knew they had come too far to back down, yet every fiber of his being screamed that this would be their last stand. The final moments of the battle blurred into chaos. Goro fought fiercely, pushing through the onslaught of human ships, but it felt like an uphill battle against a tide that refused to relent. As he maneuvered his ship, he caught a glimpse of the human commander again, still fighting with the same fervor, rallying their troops amidst the chaos. With one last desperate push, Goro attempted to break through the human lines, but the resilience he had underestimated became a wall he could not penetrate. It was as if they had anticipated his every move, countering with precision and determination. In that moment of realization, Goro felt the weight of the truth settle heavily on his shoulders. The humans weren't just resilient, they were unified in a way that transcended individual survival. They fought not just for themselves, but for each other, creating an unbreakable bond that rendered their enemies powerless in the face of such unity. As Goro's ship was engulfed in the chaos of the battle, he found himself surrounded by the remnants of his once mighty fleet. The humans pressed on, relentless in their pursuit, and for the first time, Goro understood the true nature of their fight. It wasn't just a clash of weapons, it was a clash of ideals, a struggle for a future that would define the galaxy. In the chaos, he caught one last glimpse of the human commander, who fought valiantly among their comrades. Their eyes met for just a fleeting moment, and in that exchange, Goro recognized the truth he had been blind to. The humans were not merely fighting to win, they were fighting to protect everything they held dear. With that realization, Goro understood that the war was not one he could win by conventional means. It was a war of hearts and minds, one that required a shift in perspective. As he prepared for what might be his final stand, he resolved to change the course of this conflict. With a heavy heart, he transmitted a message to his fleet. "We must withdraw. We can't fight this battle with strength alone. We need to rethink our approach. We must live to fight another day." The order echoed through the chaos, and as his fleet began to retreat, Goro felt a strange sense of peace wash over him. They had fought valiantly, but the human spirit was a force beyond comprehension, a testament to their resilience and unity. As he watched the battle unfold from a distance, Goro knew that this wasn't the end. They had lost a battle, but perhaps there was a way to find common ground, a way to understand the essence of what made humanity strong. The retreating forces formed a new resolve. They would live to fight another day, to reassess their strategies and learn from their mistakes. The War Council would reconvene, but this time, Goro would advocate for understanding rather than mere conquest. The cosmos was vast and filled with diverse species, each with their own strengths and stories. Perhaps there was a way to foster alliances rather than fuel divisions. As the remnants of his fleet regrouped, Goro felt a flicker of hope, a belief that even in the darkest of times, there might be a path to peace. As they retreated into the depths of space, the echoes of battle faded into the distance, replaced by a new determination. Goro knew that the war was far from over, but perhaps this conflict could evolve into something more, a chance for growth, understanding, and a future where all species could coexist. In the weeks that followed, Goro and the remaining commanders met to reassess their strategies. They discussed their losses and considered the strength that humanity had displayed. The more they delved into their encounters, the clearer it became that the humans were not just a foe to be defeated, but a people driven by a sense of purpose and community. Goro took the lead in proposing a new approach, one that focused on dialogue rather than dominance. "We've seen the humans' tenacity and spirit. Instead of fighting to conquer, why not seek to understand their motivations? If we can find common ground, perhaps we can forge a new path forward." The council chamber buzzed with discussions, some resistant to the idea while others began to see the merit in Goro's words. It was a risk, one that required vulnerability and trust. Yet Goro felt a sense of hope, a belief that a different future was possible. As the council continued their discussions, Goro began reaching out to other species, seeking allies who might share a similar vision for peace. He shared his insights, highlighting the strength found in unity rather than division. Slowly, they began to form a coalition focused on diplomacy, aiming to engage the humans in meaningful discussions rather than endless battles. Goro understood that this would be a long and arduous journey, filled with challenges and setbacks, but he felt it was worth the effort. In the following months, the coalition reached out to human leaders, extending an olive branch. The response was mixed, with some factions viewing the proposal with skepticism. However, there were also those who recognized the potential for cooperation and the opportunity to forge a new path in the galaxy. As talks progressed, Goro found himself in the presence of human representatives, engaging in discussions that were both enlightening and challenging. He listened to their stories, their motivations, and the dreams they held for the future. Each encounter chipped away at the barriers that had separated their races for far too long. Goro learned that the human spirit was rooted in resilience and an unwavering belief in the possibility of a better tomorrow. They fought for their families, their friends, and their communities, striving to create a world where everyone could thrive. This understanding fueled Goro's resolve to continue building bridges between their species. As discussions advanced, Goro noticed a shift in tone among the human representatives. They began to see the coalition not as a threat but as a potential ally. Mutual respect started to blossom, leading to dialogues about cooperation and collaboration on various fronts. In time, the coalition proposed joint efforts to address shared challenges. Together, they could confront external threats and promote peace across the galaxy. This marked a pivotal moment in the relationship between the two species, as they began to realize that unity could be a source of strength rather than a weakness. As Goro stood at the forefront of this new alliance, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The path ahead was uncertain, but he knew that they were no longer bound by the chains of conflict. They had the opportunity to shape their destinies together, learning from each other's strengths and weaknesses. Months turned into years, and the coalition flourished. Humans and various species began to work hand in hand, pooling their resources and knowledge to tackle challenges that once seemed insurmountable. The galaxy, once a battlefield, transformed into a tapestry of collaboration and shared dreams. As Goro reflected on their journey, he marveled at how far they had come. The conflict that had once threatened to tear them apart had evolved into a partnership built on mutual respect. He realized that the most profound battles were not always fought with weapons. Sometimes, they were fought with understanding and empathy. In the years that followed, Goro and the human representatives became close allies. They shared victories and setbacks, celebrated successes, and faced challenges together. The bond they forged became a beacon of hope for other species, showcasing the power of unity in the face of adversity. Goro's perspective had shifted entirely. He understood that the essence of warfare was not merely about conquest but about forging connections and finding common ground. The galaxy, once filled with hostility and suspicion, now thrived on collaboration and shared goals. As he stood on the command deck, gazing at the stars that had once been the backdrop for their struggles, Goro felt a deep sense of gratitude. He knew that the journey ahead would not be without obstacles, but he believed in the resilience of their newfound alliance. Together, they would continue to face the unknown, united in their pursuit of a brighter future for all.